My name is Sean McCoy. I'm National Business Development Director, Employee Benefits Advocates. We're an educational company. We're based out of Shreveport, Louisiana. I've been working with federal employees now for the last 12 years. I have about 33 years of experience in the financial services industry. I don't practice anymore. During the last 12 years, I've spoken to probably conservatively around 28,000 federal employees and delivered thousands of federal employee benefit briefings. Our host today is Nick Woodward. He's our senior online strategist. He's the person that helps us with anything that has to do with our sales and marketing efforts, particularly as it relates to an online strategy using the web. Before we get into the presentation, there's a couple things I do want to point out. First off, a question we get all the time is, how are you guys structured? Are you an IMO? Are you an FMO? We're none of the above. We're actually just strictly an educational company. We do not distribute any products. We're not licensed, so you don't need to worry about potentially splitting any commissions or anything of that nature with us. When you want to get in with the federal market, there's really some things that I want to point out that you really need to have, and those are what I call the 3 C's or commitment. The first is you have to be committed to be a scholar of the benefits. That's the first C of commitment. The next C is you have to be committed to the time of the resource to be able to develop the market. So this is not something you're going to go out and automatically set up a briefing next week or have something where you have 50 people at a dinner at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. That's not how it works. It takes a while to develop, and we're going to talk about several different methods you'll have in order to work with federal employees. And then the third C is the commitment of the financial resources to invest not only in learning about the federal employee benefits, but also the time and effort and the money associated with developing the market. So federal employees are a large untapped market. According to the Office of Personnel Management, there's about 2.8 million federal employees, including about 600, almost 700,000 postal employees. So it's a large and untapped market. So I'm assuming you're here today because you're looking for an opportunity to work with pretty much an undiscovered niche market that has quite a bit of opportunity in terms of the breadth of the individuals that you can work with within the federal government, as well as the opportunities to provide assistance. Why should you work with federal employees? Well, first off, the federal workforce population is age 50 or older compared to about 24% in the private sector. The average age for federal employees is about 47 with about 16.3 years of service. And according to the Office of Personnel Management, beginning in 2018, about a third of the federal population became eligible to retire. So if you put that into perspective, that's about 776,000 people that are eligible to retire within the federal government. That's a tremendous amount of people that you could potentially work with. As Nick mentioned, one of the nuances about federal employees is people believe that federal employees are not well compensated, when in fact they are. They must be competitively paid in order for the federal government to compete with private sectors or risk losing a recruit to a private sector company. The location of federal employees, 85% of all federal employees work outside the Metro DC area, with the top 10 states being, with federal employees being California, Texas, Virginia, Maryland, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Illinois, and Ohio. When you're working with federal employees, there's really 7 key areas that you can assist federal employees. And we'll go through those 7 key areas. The first is in the area of maximizing their pension or a pension income alternative, sometimes referred to as pension maximization. Both the old system, the civil service retirement system, and the new system both have a defined benefit plan. And they must make a survivor election at retirement. And in some cases, it may behoove them to take out a life insurance policy in lieu of taking the maximum survivor benefit because of the many options that they may present in terms of flexibility and how those benefits are used for survivors. So that would be using a life insurance policy in order to accomplish that. An area where I found that most federal employees and most of the people I've talked to that work with federal employees are unaware of this opportunity, and it's FERS with less than 10 years of service. You see, if a FERS with less than 10 years of service dies and they don't receive a pension, all they receive is a lump sum amount equal to about half of their salary, and this year about $34,500. So if there is no pension coming in, you have a risk management from the income replacement, as well as a health insurance issue if there are not minor children in the family, because the surviving spouse will not continue the health insurance at the employee rate. They'll actually continue at what's called the TCC rate, which is like COBRA in the private sector. So it's about 102% of the premium, very expensive. So life insurance may be a potential solution to assist those employees in dealing with that risk management. The Thrift Savings Plan is the largest defined contribution program in the world. And the challenge is that they need help with allocating their assets. About 40% of all the assets are in the G Fund, which is essentially a high yield money market account. So their assets are not put in the proper allocation while they're working, so they need some assistance with that, along with potential distribution options available so that they can have the most flexibility and get all of the bells and whistles that they're looking for on products and services that you may provide. The voluntary contribution program is kind of unique. It's only available to the CSRS and the CSRS offset. This is an old defined contribution program that was put in place well in advance of the TSP. What this allows is a employee covered under the CSRS or offset program to put up to 10% of everything they've owned over their entire working career, and then turn around and be able to use the VCP as a conduit and move those assets into a Roth IRA, thereby taking funds that they are receiving 1099s on, using the VCP as a conduit and putting it into a Roth, thereby avoiding the typical contribution limits of $6,000 or $7,000, depending on their age, and the income limitations that can oftentimes prevent individuals from contributing. Now, the downside of this opportunity is, according to the Office of Personnel Management, there's only approximately 2% of the population that remains that are covered under this particular CSRS or offset, and that constitutes about 55,000 federal employees or less. Now, to give you an idea about the breadth of some of the assets within the TSP, this is a chart that comes from the Office of Personnel Management website, and it shows you how those assets are broken down. So you can see there's a wide distribution of the amount of assets that are available to help the employees when they retire, and also there's solutions you may be able to provide to them that are better and offer more choices than what they have by leaving it in the TSP. One note on this particular chart, you'll notice that there's about 9,600 people that have over $1 million in the TSP.